Yeah, it was a little dark too.
Everyone, welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. We're doing.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hey, Todd.
we're having fun with Skype this morning. Rob's audio out was like flipping him the bird. Wasn't letting
Yeah,
him.
I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear Todd. So yeah, things happen. So I just had to switch my output. So yeah,
Yeah, Skype can be ornery sometimes. It's just you get an update and it conflicts with something. So when it works, it works. But
yeah. Who knows? It's always a mystery when it happens.
yeah, and you're always scratching your head. But anyway, everyone, welcome to the show, and I'm glad to be back. Nice nice break for me, and but glad to be back in the saddle.
Yeah, great to have you back. So did you have a good trip to the Far East?
I did, absolutely, I did. So no complaints whatsoever there, and yeah, so we're good. So I had a good break, but anyway, lots of stuff going on in the space. I was completely like disconnected. I mean, no, I didn't read email, didn't read websites, wasn't on Facebook. It was perfect.
That's what I was
So
gonna say. That was the point, right?
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I came home to 2,600 emails and oh man, and then not having a clue what the heck was going on, and just trying to get up to speed on what I missed, and I guess I didn't miss much.
It starts to slow down a little bit this time of the year to some
Yeah.
degree. And I know that we were originally going to have a person on from Google today,
Yeah.
but he was actually on an airplane right now flying back. I think he said from the Far East as well. So
Yeah, I think he was
yeah.
in. I think he was in Europe or something. I don't remember. He's
Oh,
somewhere. Yeah,
okay.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, he's flying back. So he's rescheduled for the 7th of July. So
Oh, okay. Well, we'll cross our fingers that he is able to come on.
and it sounds like he's gonna. I don't know. I mean, he may stay longer, but I think he may only stay for a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
So, but that should be plenty, and then we can always talk afterwards. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I need to full screen you.
I'm just in a little box on your monitor.
Yeah. There we go. That's better. Something was. I kept looking around. What's wrong? And
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, that was something I neglected to do. But now you're full screen. So yeah, kind of an interesting end of the week. And it really kind of started with something you had found. And I'm the one that kind of raised a little bit of stink about it. But you want to talk about this Castbox thing?
Well, it actually came from one of the Spreaker developers because
Oh,
we've been working on trying to make sure that we're fully compliant with the Google stuff that's
mm-hmm.
going on now with our platform, and he stumbled across this feed that was showing up in search results in Google of all places, and was curious what was going on with that. So he shared it with me. So that's how we discovered it, was in connection with the Google stuff. So you can kind of see how that might have been used by Castbox to get some search engine optimization stuff going for them. So
Yeah, and in quite the wrong way to do it, nonetheless. So for those of you that aren't aware, what Rob found, or what Rob's team found, was a mirrored. Well, I'll just call it the way it is: a hijacked mirrored feed of his original feed, utilizing a URL that terminated at Castbox, and all links within the feed, excluding the audio feed, had been removed. All reference links to original articles, episodes, had been stripped from that and replaced with Castbox originating or terminating links, which goes against everything that is the norm for podcasting. And originally I tried to justify how they were doing this. I tried to look and say, okay, if this was an internal feed that's being used to power something on their website, then
power their app or something.
Power their app, then I can give them the benefit of the doubt on that. In that this is a simple mistake. These were publicly, these were feeds that they're using internally that should have not been publicly allowed to be seen, but they weren't. If you look at the comparison of the data on their website and what was in the feed, and it wasn't the same information. So their explanation, I'm still not completely convinced. They released like 3 different statements, all 3 of them conflicting with each other, and one that came out that was official. But still, in my humble opinion, they haven't fully answered the reasoning here for those feeds. Now, I just.
Well, Todd, we discovered them in connection with Google Podcasts optimization.
Right.
So if you think about what that means, and that Google optimization utilizes RSS feeds like that to generate plays in Google. So they could be trying to rank higher and drive traffic back to their website in the Google search stuff, right?
Right.
So that's probably what it was, is my guess.
And they just didn't realize that all hell was going to break loose when all of a sudden you search for the Spreaker Live show, and in amongst the search results is your feed and their feed, and giving people the false impression that this is the place to go to subscribe to a show.
Mm-hmm. In the Google platform.
In the Google platform.
Yeah. Right. And then back to the homepage link was back to their page for the show.
Back to their homepage. And still, they haven't given a reason why they, in my opinion, there's never a reason. And plus they stripped out header information, copyright information. They put a whole bunch of their stuff in there. This was an obvious bumble by those folks.
Well, Todd, are we going to see more of this, though, given Google's new strategy, though? That's the thing that I was thinking about, is that we could see this pop up more in the future.
Yeah, I think we could, but the problem, what this boils down to is you have a group of people running a company that obviously do not understand podcasting and the value of a podcast feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just going to call a spade, and I can't. I'm not convinced otherwise at this point. It's just too coincidental.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that the owners of Castbox really understand podcasting that much. I know it's a Chinese company. At the end of the day,
I thought they had U.S. run. Don't they have some U.S. based people?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think the CEO is former Google, but I think it has strong connections to China from an investment perspective. If you want to hear more about Castbox, go listen to the Wolf Den podcast with Alex. As part of the mid-roll folks.
Mm-hmm.
They did an interview with their I think global VP of partnerships, just in the most recent episode. I was listening to it last night, and it just kind of gives you a glimpse. I mean, he was pretty candid, because I listened to it last night. He was pretty candid about his disagreement with the strategy coming out of the China connection, and he fully acknowledged that they didn't really understand the space, but they were learning fast, is what he said. So if you want to dig a little deeper into this, I would go listen to that conversation in the Wolf Den podcast. So,
well, Dave Jackson was not at all. He just laid out 3 separate comments that they made in, I think, the same interview that was like, wow, they don't. So, maybe they just didn't know this. Here's the if you don't come from the podcasting space and you're not a podcaster, you don't understand the sensitivities of a feed. And so I think it really boils down to maybe maybe I'm being too harsh on them. But it sounds to me like they need to get some people in there that really understand the podcasting space.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're also playing around with the premium subscriptions too. They're getting into original content, and then they're only publishing that content just to Castbox. So they're playing that HBO model.
So they're publishers as well, then.
Correct.
Well, that contradicts even more what they said.
Yeah.
So they are a host.
Yeah, but they're only a host to their own platform.
Right.
So their own apps, essentially. So they're being linked up with the conversation about how is this the age of the Netflix of podcasting kind of phenomenon, and that's or the HBO of podcasting or whatever. That's been bounced around a lot, but it seems like some folks are trying to position themselves as a little bit like an Audible in combination with a fairly open podcast listening platform. So they're trying to live in both worlds.
Right.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Well, this isn't the first Chinese company to stumble like this. So
no.
Another hosting.
There's been strong Chinese connections in this medium for many years now.
Yeah, and making some of the same exact mistakes. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, it's interesting. To me, they're just another app. I haven't been following them too close. There's some people that say that the app search results are really good over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're doing stuff with transcriptions. They've had about, I think the number I heard was 29 million in venture capital.
Oh my God, 29 million for an app? An app?
Well, it's a platform, Todd. So yeah,
29 million.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and they have. If you go listen to this guy talk, Victor, I think is his first name. They have over 60 employees. Yeah.
Do you know what I could do with 60 employees? Well, when you don't have to pay them shit in China, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, I don't know where the people are. I don't know if they're in China or here, but that's what he said, is that they have about 60 employees. So.
Wow. That's amazing. 29 million for a, well, and there, as I was looking at the feed that had been quote unquote hijacked and mirrored, they had some semblance in there, references to ad injection. And so this to me is the purpose. That was my initial thought was, okay, they had to create a feed so that when they do injection through the people that work with them, they can change out the media URL. That was my kind of thought process as why they had these secondary feeds. But as I think about it more, I'm not completely convinced, because those were just links to articles on their website talking about ad injection. So,
and Todd, I think it was more of an SEO thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was trying to get into the Google podcast platform for all these shows to try and generate traffic for them.
Well, podcasters, this is fair warning for you. Another reason. And absolutely another reason why it's important to control your feed. I'm just
well, and we're gonna have to have a talk to the gentleman from Google on the 7th about this topic, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to ask him, how do we prevent rogue third parties from doing the same thing? How do we set the authority on a feed?
Exactly. Who should be the one that comes up as a searcher? I mean, because up to this point, Todd, if you think about it, I mean, you do a search for any show in Google, you could have a variety of links that go to different platforms to listen to the same show, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, they took the approach that why can't we do that with the new situation, right?
Right.
So a person could subscribe in the Google podcasts to a Spreaker Live show in Castbox, right?
And not only that, it also sets the realization, Rob, that they had to have set the header information in the web page to link to that file to make Google search results find it. They had to purposely put that. That's exactly what it was. Now that I think about it a little more.
And they justified it from the fact that the media file request is still going to our servers.
Right.
So the metrics on that are still intact, right? That listener is still tracked. But if they can get people to go visit their website for the show, then they're getting that traffic. And, like you say, maybe there's an opportunity for them down the road to switch on some sort of monetization strategy or to solicit you as a podcaster to move your show over to them at some point. Who knows, depending on what their strategy turns out to be.
Right. Another thing that rubbed people wrong was that they said in their statement that they remove links back to home pages for safety reasons. And
or security reasons?
Well, they said safety reasons specifically. And okay, so I understand the impact of when you have a directory and so as an example, every once in a while, a site will get hacked and it'll get flagged. And if your site is linking to that site, you're going to get a notification that you're linking to that site. That's part of the webmaster tools and all that. It's basically, so when you have a show like mine that has 30 plus outbound links to different sites, invariably once in a while, one of those outbound links will go to a site that's got some issues, and I'll have to de-link it on my site. Now imagine a directory with 600,000 shows in it, and you've got all the show note links linking back to the original material. It does, there can be some impact. So, but it doesn't excuse so that's a risk, and that's something you, as a directory that you have to plan for, that you have to make sure that you're ready for if something comes up. So we have no issues, and from the very beginning, we link back to the podcaster's homepage and original RSS feed. That is just, that's the way you do it. And, we haven't had this come up in a while, but if you remember back in the early days, this happened on quite a regular basis. How many times did we have to talk about companies that were, big ones? Pod Show got in trouble for a while. They had some issues with hijacked feeds and
Pod Show who, Todd?
Yeah, Pod Show. And even Adam Curry had to come on and apologize and said, we made a mistake. It was an oversight. It was wrong. And they fixed it, and so it was like, that was like Armageddon. And so, sorry, here, my phone's getting close to the speakers. Someone, probably one of those, you're being investigated by the IRS, some number that I've never heard from before. So, I just, well, I think we're going to see more of this. If you have teams that don't podcast.
I think with the new Google strategy, I think we are going to see this happen more. I don't know, maybe this situation with Castbox will cast a shadow over this practice and keep it from happening. But I think with Google's new approach here and new strategy, I think it's definitely a possibility that could happen more.
Right.
So,
Eileen says in the chat room, but whose safety are they concerned with? Just saying.
Their own.
Yeah. But, and what even surprised me more, there was a few people in the Facebook thread that were like, so what? And I'm like, oh my God. You just want to grab his shoulders and shake him, you're like, wake up and have a clue here. What's going on? And, so I tried to spend, a paragraph kind of just quickly explaining why this is not good.
Yeah. Well, I hope over time here, and I think I was thinking about this too in the context of this, is how much are people really cutting and pasting and utilizing RSS feeds anymore? I think I think ultimately my thought was RSS feeds would eventually disappear into the fabric of the internet, where machines shared RSS feeds, not people. And I think that may be the course that we're on, going into the future. I see, I just don't see people cutting and pasting RSS feeds or having a need to do that, Todd.
Well, I'm not saying that they're cutting and pasting, but it's still the vehicle to get this thing done. Well,
I know, but really, I think as far as my understanding of the history of this is that where the danger was is people taking a feed, right, that they got off of some other platform that was hijacked and then submitting it to iTunes, right?
Right.
Or putting it into their podcatcher.
Sure.
Because a lot of the older podcast apps, you had a little button there, submit RSS feed, right?
Yeah.
I had the same problem with my developers when I was working at Microsoft, where they had a submit RSS feed, so you could add a feed to your collection that you're listening to in your software, right?
Sure.
It may not be in the catalog, so just go find the RSS feed and cut and paste it in there.
Yep.
Well, what the engineers decided to do, and I didn't really have anything to do with the architecture of that part of the thing, they just made a decision that every feed that was going to be submitted to be included in the catalog or in your personal catalog, right, would also be submitted for inclusion in the public catalog. So that's where it caused the problem, right? I just don't know, Todd. I mean, if you think about it, how many apps out there, podcast apps, are now enabling people to cut and paste RSS feeds?
Yeah, I don't know how many will actually allow you to manually put a feed in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I do know that, as an example, over at Blueberry, we have the ability where people can create playlist, and that playlist contains an RSS feed, a custom RSS feed that they get that they can subscribe to, which we have a huge number of people that still do that. And basically, we curate the new episodes and put them in the feed for them, and then it shows up in their playlist. So I know that Apple is still supporting that in the podcast app.
And I know that you can go into the Apple podcasts or the formerly known as iTunes podcast app on Windows and Mac, and you can extract the RSS feed for any show that's in their catalog. So you can go in and copy and paste it, but
I don't think that it's being done as much, but in this instance, with Google being the 9,000-pound gorilla, this is now an important topic again, because we haven't had to talk about this in many years.
Yeah, because we really haven't had a real issue with it, and now since Google has taken this new approach, where if you put the RSS feed in the header of your website, right?
Yeah.
Irregardless of whether or not it's your RSS feed, if you're able to get the RSS feed, you could conceivably do this, right?
Yeah.
And Apple is a source of getting RSS feeds.
Eileen says, but what is also interesting, do you guys think that Castbox was doing this from the beginning? I know the Spreaker engineers just found it, but how long were these feeds out there? I would have seen this.
I don't think it's been that long, because it hasn't been that long that Google has really pushed on their strategy.
Right.
So I think it's just been in the last few weeks, because I'm sure everybody in the industry now is all focused on making sure that they're compatible with Google Podcasts
within the past week.
Yeah.
So I bet it's been the past week.
Yeah.
Because I search for my show all the time, and I would have seen that. But then again, if you're not on an Android device, you're probably pretty much out there in la la land. You don't know how your show's doing unless you're using a Google browser and a mobile app.
Yeah.
On the website TechCrunch.com,
they say, lovely.
Amazon has quietly launched an Android web browser app for emerging markets where access to mobile data and high-speed. The mic is muted.
Yeah, the mic is muted. I don't know how that got invoked.
Oh, is that Google Home? Or?
Yeah, it was Google Home. I must have triggered it.
Yeah.
So let me just do something here real quick. I'm in a Chrome browser because I don't think I can see anything different No, so it's in a normal Google browser on a desktop. If you're not an Android user, you just don't know. You have to be on an Android device to see what is happening here. So if you're an iOS user, you're clueless to how your stuff looks.
Well, hopefully what Google do eventually will make this functionality work in their Chrome browser on Apple as well as Windows.
Yeah, we'll have to ask them if they're going to consent do that.
Yeah.
Because it would make sense that would be the case, but it's it's hard to know. So what hashtag did Jared use? Did I miss that comment? Is Jared watching? So Eileen, what hashtag did Jared easily make? So I'm just reading the comments here on Facebook. But it's I don't want to spend a lot of time on dogging these guys, but it's just it's again. It just seems like every time that I turn around here, I continue to be rejustified in my thought process on, the control of the feed is still, to me, top of mind.
Yeah.
Or working with someone that ensures that your feed is controlled.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly the foundation of this medium. The aggressive movement towards API syndication didn't really catch on, did it, Todd?
Oh, Eileen said Team Eileen was the hashtag. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
so when me, as soon as you mentioned, I was like, what?
Yeah, right. It's like
let the bull loose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I knew if I let you know about that feed that the world would catch on fire. Yeah. So
to their credit, they were out. I tweeted them first, and I waited. And I didn't get anything in the tweet response. So they're like, okay, drop a dime.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, nothing. So what else, besides Castbox, what else is going on in space?
Oh.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? There was something I heard. I noticed that Anna Faris did a deal to get on radio, so we're starting to see more podcast talent start to get radio deals,
Oh, good.
which I think is interesting development. What was some of the other things that happened this week too? It's also the big run up to podcast movement. Things are heating up. I did get a couple of 2 or 3 speaking gig opportunities at DragonCon.
Oh, good.
Coming up in August. I don't know if you've been to DragonCon before, Todd?
I have not.
So I guess it's like 80 plus thousand people.
Wow.
Converge on Atlanta.
I know we're doing some sponsorships of some podcast sessions there. So.
Oh, you are? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But haven't been asked to participate. So good.
Yeah. So that seems to be in the same genre to some degree that the big cosplay podcasting event up here in Seattle was at the PodCon. Yeah,
right.
It's in that same genre. So it'll be interesting to see PodCon come back here too in January.
Has the date's been announced?
Let's go to PodCon and see what they have on their website. That was the last thing that I had heard. But I haven't heard from Hank Green directly. I know that they just came out of VidCon.
Yeah, there's no dates on the website.
Just last week, so probably once VidCon is wrapped up and done, then they can probably start concentrating on PodCon.
Right. One thing that that I saw was I hate to go back to them, but the question that I asked, because I saw that Castbox had posted some listener data, and the question that I raised was they posted this listener data. My question is, are they informing listeners that they are collecting listener data? And so this is interesting data. It says, but the question is, are they informing their listeners that they're actually collecting that information? So I don't know if anybody even raised that question.
Are you thinking of the issues with the GDPR stuff?
Absolutely. GDPR, privacy, listener privacy. So if they're collecting play data and bringing that back, is number one, is it GDPR compliant? Number two, in their terms of service, have they told listeners that they are collecting this data? So that would be my wonder. And if they are, then okay. But if they're just collecting this information and sharing it, maybe we've got another issue here. But
yeah,
Rob, I still care about listener privacy too. So
yeah. I do sometimes feel like we're the police force of the podcasting space, aren't we?
I hate to say it like that, but
yeah,
two old curmudgeons here,
Speak for yourself, Todd. No, but you're right. I guess we're kind of in a position where we've seen a lot of stuff happen, and a lot of these trends tend to repeat themselves.
Right.
And I think it causes us to be seen as a little bit of curmudgeons,
right?
Because grumpy old men. But we've seen these trends and these things have been tried before. There's actually very little new that we see, even though this whole Google podcast stuff is relatively new. I think what it's creating is the kind of backlash of it or whatever, or the fallout from it is not something that's tremendously new.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just so I just wonder now, how many podcasters are actually paying attention to this Google thing. That's a pretty big deal. And if you have an Android phone, how they've implemented this is slick. You no longer need you haven't the ability now Google has made it so that every Android user will have your show as an app on your desktop. You don't need an Android app no more. It took me 15 seconds once I found my show to subscribe and put an app right on my desk, right on my mobile tablet, And
but Todd, I do hear a lot of feedback from people saying that they're not very impressed with the feature set.
Well, it's
right?
round one.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. But I've heard some people be pretty vocal about it, saying don't drop your existing Android app,
right?
Because it's not. This isn't fully baked yet, right?
Right.
It's still raw cookie dough,
right?
So, which is part of why I wanted to have Kyle on the show from Google. He's the guy that's in charge of this thing.
Yeah.
To talk about what their plans are as much as he can talk about.
Yeah.
I would think he can talk about quite a bit.
Well, one thing, if he's only going to be with us 30 minutes when he comes on the show, we're going to have to make sure we stay super focused on the questions we answer him. We actually may need to write up some questions this time. We never do that, but...
Yeah. Now, that's true. Or at least have some notes in front of us about what we want to make sure that we pin him down on.
and if any of you want us to ask specific questions to the Google team lead, let us know. We'll make sure that we do that. So I'm just glad he's able to come on, and was hoping this week we'd be able to get him on and talk about it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's like you said, he's in transit.
Yep. So, but he's locked in for the 7th.
Okay.
So July 7th, right here, same bat channel.
Yeah. Same bad time.
Bad time. No, it's bat time.
I know. Same bad channel. Yeah.
But as far as you're concerned, it's bad time.
Yeah. Remember, those of you that listen to this show, remember, I sacrificed getting up at 4:45 a.m. on a Saturday. So
yeah, that's right.
And Rob has to get up about 15 minutes, run a little water through his hair, and turn on his computer.
That's right. I've got it pretty rough over here, Todd.
Yeah. Well, you did this morning. You got your butt kicked by Skype.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
Well, there was also some news about some folks launching a podcast network for YouTube stars. UTA.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, UTA and Cadence 13.
Oh, yeah. Cadence 13, yes.
So a lot of, a lot of content deals happening. And they're going to call
it, yeah.
And they're calling the network Ramble. And
I'll bet you they were down in force down at PodCon.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I thought about going down to that as well, because there's a lot of crossover starting to happen between that community and our community.
So I guess this UTA is a pretty big talent agency.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm not familiar at all with that side of the biz per se.
It's a talent agency that's located down in Los Angeles, and Cadence 13 has a significant presence down in Los Angeles as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and a UTA is also behind the deal that Amy Schumer did with Spotify. So, more and more UTA represents, the A and B list celebrities out there, and they're driving their clients into podcasting. So,
speaking of Spotify,
yes, Spotify,
they are taking submissions again. But
have
you heard any? I have a huge batch that are in the pool.
Yeah, I do too. Actually, we're going to jump straight into using the API to submit to them. Is what we're doing. It's going to happen next week.
Yeah, we're doing the same.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on our token, and then hopefully that'll speed things up a little bit.
I guess it's almost instantaneous, I guess is what I'm hearing. So it's pretty fast.
Oh, well,
is
good.
what I'm hearing. So we shall see what actually happens next week. But
yeah.
So-
Well, that'll alleviate a lot of. And another thing, they still, I think they're a little behind on is they're not refreshing feeds, or they're not pulling feeds as often as I wish they would. So I'm still dealing with a lot of tickets on that.
Yeah.
But it's completely out of my control.
But that's a real common. That's real common with a rookie podcast ingesting platform, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a real common rookie mistake.
Yeah.
In how to properly manage large batches of RSS feeds, how to properly set up your parsing engines, and as you and Angelo know very well now, right? This is not a simple formula.
No.
And unless you've done it before, you don't really know how to do it. So these guys are stumbling their way through it, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah, it took us a while, but I think we're down now where I can pull 600,000 feeds in about, I think about 3 hours. So, it's just a lot of pulling, it's, you think about.
Well, and you can't pull it too fast either, or else you're going to trigger server blocks.
Yeah. So
because there's code out there that will protect the servers against denial of service attacks.
Right.
So you have to be careful on how you pace your requests.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's across providers too. Some providers will see you if they see, even though you're coming in with 10 different domains from the same IP can actually trigger, and let's say they're all on like GoDaddy, and you hit 10 of those at once. You're still going through GoDaddy's firewall to get there, and GoDaddy's going to say, hey, hold up here.
Slow it down, right?
Yeah. So, they're just trying to protect their infrastructure, and they don't know they probably know you're a crawler, but they penalize you if you hit them too fast.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, and that is a little bit of the reason why things take a little time for, if you update your cover art, or you change your description, or Apple, I'm sure over the years has really had to tweak it and optimize it to get it to work even as well as they have their platform working.
Right.
It's not easy, especially if you've got 500,000 shows.
Yep. Yeah, but it takes a while to get through. Greg is in the chat room. He says, is it time to charter a podcast industry association or for advocacy, education, member negotiations? What's the history? Has it been tried?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been tried, but I think I do agree. And it's going to be a topic that I'm going to raise at the State of Podcasting panel session at Podcast Movement of, do we need a industry association now because of the issues that we're facing?
Right.
More and more, I think that may be really the only potential solution to some of the challenges that the industry is going to face over the next few years.
The original one that was started was the Association for Downloadable Media, and it was kind of destined to fail from the beginning because agendas. Any association, there's agendas that get in the way, and corporate agendas.
We've already seen those too, Todd.
Right. Well, yes, we have.
Yeah.
In other trade organizations, we've seen agendas cause issues, and straight out almost fist fights. When it comes to trying to hold the line on some stuff. People have no idea some of the
behind the scenes stuff that goes on.
Yeah. So, and it's I shouldn't say fist fights. It's agendas is what it is. Corporate agendas. So, any association that would be formed, it's a lot of work. I mean, you're going to need dedicated people. You're going to need a significant influx of cash. I'm serious. This is not something that can be run by someone in their basement. It really can't. So for an association to be formed, there's going to need to be 2, 3, 4 people.
Staff.
That are staff. They're getting paid. They get a salary, and that's going to have to be driven from membership. And okay, so there's, if you look at the companies out there, and the way they usually structure this is based upon revenue. That's how they do the corporate membership. You set a certain dollar amount that you pay. The check I write to the IEB every year is, it's painful to write that check. It's a big check to write. And Rob, I know you guys face it too. It's and you have to weigh, how much value am I getting out of this, writing this check?
Yeah.
Or can I ill afford to write the check because someone's agenda is going to be trying to do some stuff that is bad for the podcasting space. So it's almost where you have to write the check. So I think any association, I think it's a good idea, but it's a very serious undertaking.
Yeah, I agree. But it has been tried before. I mean, to answer the question here, and both Todd and I were involved in it. I was on the board, and I don't know if you were on the board of directors for a while, Todd.
No, I don't think I was on the board, but we've led the measurement committee. That's
Well, that's where we got the standards that we had before IAB took it up, right?
People say, there's no standards. Well, yes, there were. Podtrack Libsyn and Raw Voice wrote them.
Yeah, right.
Because at the time we were the only ones doing measurement.
Yeah. Well, you were really the only podcast hosting platforms.
Yeah. Well, we came on hosting late. See, we didn't start hosting till later.
Yeah.
So our main revenue in the early days was all advertising. So.
Oh, that's right. It was the measurement and advertising.
Yeah. So it's I think it's time, but people are strapped for time now. Rob, I don't know about your calendar, but I'm crushed. We're adding more people to help me on the back end and help Angelo on the back end administratively. And
we're hiring too. We put out, I think, 4 job postings just last week.
Yeah. So it is. As a matter of fact, speaking of which, if you are a podcaster and you have oral and written skills and know your way around a keyboard and have some, I'm looking for somebody in Columbus. In Columbus is the key. You have to work in the office. You'll be working side by side with Angelo and the team. So, if you send me your resume. We haven't posted the job listing yet, so you're getting a advance notice. But it's and we finally filled a couple of positions we've been trying to fill. So I'm thrilled. Because it's a pain to hire people, and I don't. We're HR. I don't have an HR department.
You are HR,
right? Well, Barry's HR.
Oh, Barry's HR. Okay.
But I think it's a good time. Written by half of the podcast police. No, I'll be honest with you. When you have a trade organization, the last people you want writing the bylaws and membership stuff is the podcast companies. You don't want that. They'll
fight over it.
That's not a good idea. You want some independent, maybe what it is we all got to kick in some money and hire someone to write up standard, trade association rules, bylaws. And then what happens is once the association is formed and you have it manned with a warm body, with someone that, that actually answers the phone, then that person is the organizer of the committees that are set up. And then from the membership, the committees are built out and have meetings and come up with the agenda and the message that you want to put out. And then the team at the trade association, they actually do the formulation of the written documents that are published. So again, you got to have a butt in the seat somewhere that'll do that. And that's, you're talking about maybe some office space, and you're talking about 2-3 people. So you're talking $300,000-$400,000 in budget annually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you have 30 podcast companies that get involved, and membership is between $5,000 and $10,000 a year for the companies, and then whatever the amount is for podcasters, it's podcasters who have to step up and write checks too. So
yeah. It's going to take some time to pull it together, but I think that there's some key reasons to have an association right now. And I know one of the big ones that has been talked about is driving audience and doing marketing activities to drive success of the medium forward. And then advertising standards, ad standard formats, lots of things that could come out of a group like that.
Greg's asking charter through NAB. He says radical or synergistic. I don't know if the NAB would be the right place to do a charter out of.
I don't know. I think, honestly, as a podcasting company, you can't even join the NAB yet.
Right.
They haven't even established a place for us in the industry. So sure, they want our money as trade show and folks, but that's about as far as it goes right now.
Yeah, and we have a few token sessions at their event.
Yeah. So we're not really a full-fledged member of the NAB yet as far as this medium, though it's starting to get some visibility at their conference. And it's a little surprising that that's still far behind. But I don't know, Todd, would you even want to join the NAB?
No, I'd rather join the Podcast Association if there was one.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
So Mike says, I have a question. Doesn't forming an association kind of just make a larger door for those in radio to come and try and splash more of their model on one that is clearly its own independent model in this industry? Yeah, I'm sure the radio folks, someone would want to participate, but here's the key to an association. Now, when we joined the IAB, and I'm going to be careful here because I don't want to get in trouble, we did so as a company, to protect the interest of podcasters and the agenda being put forth by certain companies. We almost missed the party. And we're fortunate that we were able to get in when we did, and literally put our money where our mouth was to make sure that standards-wise, that we got our 2 cents worth in. Now, when it comes to an association, the key is a wide membership base. And when you have a wide membership base, not one single company or group can come in and change things and make and set an agenda. If you have a wide body, so for example, on the measurement committee, there's 37 companies involved in the measurement committee. We all did not agree to everything that was submitted for the standards, but 37 companies were able to come together and sign off on a document that had a little something for everybody, and had technical points argued out. Not argued, battled out, and case studies and scientific proof and everything that you have to use any type of, when you're putting together a research paper, you have to be able to come up with sources and your information that justify what you're putting in the research paper is true. And so for us, we are able to bring our data to the table and say, listen, no, yes, maybe, that type of a situation. And it's semi-political. You have to cooperate. So in any association, though, it was because you have a wide body of folks working, no one person can come in there and rule the roost. I will say this, IAB is a for-profit company. They are not a nonprofit. So in that instance, you have to also understand that the IAB might be a little more amenable to a member that pays a bigger due every year. But that's not to say that they do. They still, the committees battle things out, and no one voice has more voting power than the other. So I think in an association set up correctly and committees set up correctly, you can accomplish a lot without agendas. Well, you can keep the agendas at bay.
Yeah, they're still going to be there, but
yeah.
It's just some people are going to get disappointed, and other people are going to be somewhat disappointed.
Yeah, I gave Dave Jackson some advice a few years ago. He was he put together the podcasting track at the original back when it was the New Media
Expo.
Media Expo, yeah. And I told Dave, I said, I'm going to give you some advice. You're going to get a lot of submissions. And I said, you need to look at those with a critical eye because everyone has an agenda. Everyone that wants to speak has an agenda at a trade show event. And I said, and I have an agenda when I speak at a trade show event. So I'm warning you. So I was giving him warning to warn him about me and others that we all have agendas, and to, and later on he said, oh man, you were so right. Because people come in with an agenda of something that they're, it's quote unquote a training opportunity for a session, but then you read between the lines, you're like, is this really a pitch?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a fine line sometimes.
It's a fine line between pitch and yeah.
And sometimes it's not so fine line. It's pretty blatant.
Right. Right.
It can go that way too.
So Mike says, I don't view that the association would have to be nonprofit. If nothing else, there are other models to use as a foundation to build this larger, more impactful organization. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of models. The Constitution, the Code of Conduct for this association would be absolutely key. You're absolutely right. I don't think they call it a constitution. What do they call the bylaw? Not the bylaws.
It's a code of conduct, I think.
Yeah. And then, but they have, that whole 25-page document, which it usually ends up being. I think a company that helps form associations could be paid to come up with that. But then again, you're probably going to need a committee of podcasters and podcasting companies to put that document together.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy.
Yep.
We were spending 2 hours a week, doing IEB stuff, and then research 3-4 hours a week. That's a lot of energy for a small company.
Yeah. It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
But it seems to be paying off, and these IAB standards, the version 2 standards, seem to be something that's important to many of the companies, and they've been actually making claims about whether or not they're supporting them.
That's right. Yeah. I have auditors scheduled now. They're finally on the schedule to come and poke holes in my system. Hopefully they find no holes.
So who's the auditors that are doing that for you?
It's someone that IB Tech Labs has contracted to do that. So they're going to come in and be in the office for 2 or 3 days and dig deep. And
Do you have to pay them to come out
oh,
and do all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that was. You think the IAB membership check was a big one to write? The certification check was much larger.
Really?
But
Wow.
it's going to be. It'll be available for any company that is an IAB member that wants to become certified. They're going to be able to go through this process. I think we're one of 3 or 4 companies that are, volunteered to be guinea pigs. So
we're going to go through it too.
have fun. It is, yeah. It's not a small deal, but it's time. And that's annually. We have to pay that annually. So
they come out and check it annually? Is that what they do?
Yep. You got to write the check every year. So it's, it's just, I think it's good for the audience to know that your hosting fees and what you pay your providers to take care of your podcast that money is being utilized to continue to invest in the space and help the space grow. It for us, it was a check we had to write. We could not write the check. So,
yeah.
I mean, you hope that it ends up driving you more business. That's ultimately what you hope.
Hey Todd, does the IAB get involved in ad format standards?
Yeah, that's their bread and butter.
That's their big bread. Okay, they haven't tackled that with podcasting yet.
Well, it's in the doc. I think there's a page dedicated to the quote unquote.
But they haven't really focused on it yet, huh?
Not specific defining units. And
also what type of creative do they get involved in? I mean, true formats, not so much just duration or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how far down this rabbit hole do they go?
They go into banner standards, banner sizes, banner display times, all that stuff. They are in that. I don't know if they go that deep in the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And they basically define the different types of ad deals. We have to report revenue on ad deals to them annually.
Yeah.
And actually, matter of fact, that dictates how much we pay for membership. Is the actual, and it's tied right back to advertising sales. So the more advertising sales you have, the bigger your membership fee is. So,
I guess where my question really comes from is getting more of these agencies to look at more host read formatted ads versus radio ads. More and more, I think we're still in this kind of this learning curve, right, of a transition between different ad content formats, right? Not so much, whether it's a 15-second or 30-second or those are more technical specifications, but more on the creative side.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I don't know. We'll see what happens. We haven't started round 3 of the document yet. Although there's been some discussions going on. We've got a Slack group that we all chat in, and I use it quite often to when someone is quoted in an article and they say they're not compliant, I like to always stir the pot by dropping that link and saying why are you not yet compliant.
Yeah.
Well,
because there's been an article that came out here over the last week or so, where some of the companies are claiming compatibility with it, and it's raised some questions, right?
Well, there's been some questions asked. Well, here's the bottom line: the 24-hour window. That's a key differentiator. Yeah. The 24-hour window is causing major angst in some companies.
And I noticed that there's comments have been made that some of these platforms out there are making the 24-hour window an option.
Making it an option?
Yes.
Well, what that really here's what that means, Rob.
I know what it means. Yeah.
Do I have a dollar bill around here? If they're using anything less than 24 hours, then their revenue goes down. Once they switch to 24 hours.
Yeah. Once they switch to 24 hours, the revenue drops.
Yeah. If you're on a refresh rate of like every 15 minutes,
your revenue goes up.
No, if you're now refreshing it, oh yeah, it goes way up.
Yeah, right. So,
and what we're referring to is the amount of time that you look in the log data for a specific IP coming in and downloading. There's rules on how many times you can measure a single IP that is downloaded a specific episode file. And it's supposed to be within a 24-hour window. So let's just use just a rough analogy here that if, and we're not even going to talk about the rules, but if you're on a 15-minute window and someone starts to listen to a show and stops, and they're not subscribed, and they get off the subway and walk up to their office and get in their office and restart the show again, and they're not subscribed.
And it's 16 minutes.
It's 16 minutes. That's 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Instead of 1. And
exactly.
So you take that and compound that over 24 hours, and then you can see where there could be some inflation of download data and loss of revenue. So, but here's the kicker, Rob, if they really do the science, if they really let's say they pull 24 hours worth of logs, and they actually do the deep analysis that they should be doing, they will find that the 24-hour window is just fine, because such a high percentage of IPs are only seen once ever on an episode. I mean, it's so high that we're, But if you're on a 15-minute window, you definitely can get inflation because of just the time on that percentage of people that aren't subscribed.
Yeah, people get phone calls, people get interrupted, and they pause their listening, and then they restart it after they get off a phone call. I mean, how many times have you been on a 16-minute phone call, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so you can kind of see how that happens, and some platforms, and I'm not going to name names, but I know who they are.
Me too.
Are offering a little radio button on their content management systems or their publishing systems that you can opt into the 24 hours, or you don't have to, right? You can keep it that 15-minute if you want.
I think that
it's all about revenue adjustments, right?
Revenue adjustments, and you may have to lay some people off when you have to lower revenue. So it's a serious issue, and and I hate to say it, get with the program. Quit screwing us.
There's been platforms that have taken the hit, taken the pain, and then there's ones that want to make it optional here, and that's it's a way to deflect responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It's basically a way to say, okay, you, the podcaster, are now the one that's making this choice. We as a platform are not forcing you to do this. We're shifting the responsibility away. And most of the responsible platforms will just cut everybody over.
Yeah.
Because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Sounds like a landmine, Rob.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yes.
Oh man. You never know who's listening to the show. And,
I know.
And we often find out who's listening to this show through back channel communications, and we often
that happened last week.
Oh, it did.
So, yeah.
So I'm just, and if I find out you're not on a 24-hour window and you're doing that, I'm not going to hesitate and calling you out. You've had 6 months.
I am a little bit here. I'm not gonna.
Well, I'm not gonna do it on the show. But if I'm having a private conversation with you, you've had 6 months. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's level the playing field. That was the goal here.
Yeah.
Well,
some of these platforms are not what I would call kind of open, right? Some of them are platforms that are like an exclusive club,
Right.
right?
Yep.
You have to be invited in,
Yeah.
or they only work with certain people, and those are typically the platforms that are skirting these type of things. They're a platform like what you and I have, Todd, which are much more public. We make a change like that onto our platform, and everybody sees it,
Right.
And everybody's going to talk about it.
Yeah, because there's 50,000 shows that are affected.
Yeah, exactly. I can't keep the lid on that.
Right. And that's why Libsyn took so much heat when they made their change, because it was pain. I understand why Rob had to do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they just had.
And some of these platforms are actually inching their way towards compliance, right? It's not like they turn the switch tomorrow, right? And all their hosts drop 30% in their traffic, and guess what? Their customer service lines blow up, which is what happens, right?
Oh, I know someone that actually is still incrementally walking towards the 24-hour window.
Yeah, it's like we're at 12 hours and 15 minutes now.
Right. And like once a month they make a change because the audience numbers they don't want the audience numbers to go boom, like drop like an elevator. They want them just to gradually, we don't know why your numbers are declining. Yeah, exactly. We really don't. We don't understand it.
You should go back and look at your content.
We don't know why you've lost 30% of your audience over the last 12 months. Really, we don't. Work harder.
That's right. It's your audio quality. Yes.
And it's truly a disservice to the podcaster. If you think about it, it's some sneaky BS. Go ahead and make the change and say, we had to make a change. Sorry.
Pull that Band-Aid off. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Pull those little hairs out.
And don't give false. I hate more than anything. Okay. So my show's cruising along. X number of listeners. I'm good. And then I drop 25%, and I'm like, it takes the wind out of your sails. So I understand why they want to incrementally drop it. But if it was wrong to begin with, you had false reality anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. These topics don't get discussed very much, Todd.
No.
So we're kind of, if you're listening to this show, you're in kind of the inside dirt on what's going on in this medium. So, but I think it needs to be talked about. I think people need to know what's going on here.
Yeah. I think they're all trying to get there.
Sure. Oh no, I think they're doing it, to some degree for the right reasons most of the time.
Yeah.
I understand the concern, but you as a podcaster on these platforms or whatever, you need to realize that we're all under the gun to make these changes, and it's going to have an impact on our relationship with the podcasters that use our platforms.
Yeah. And
somehow we have to get through it. And we may lose some customers because they go over to some other platform that's still inching their way down.
But
eventually they're going to wind up being at the same point that we're at already.
I had some people that left and sent me, my numbers are great over here. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah. Yes. And there's only so much. Sorry, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We every once in a while we run into something that we miss too. Something happens and you're like, where did that come from? And you have to go and do a filter or something, and then the people's shows take a hit. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
Yeah, boy, we've skirted the issue here today, haven't we?
We made everybody depressed now. They're not going to come back and listen to us next week.
Mike says, any change to stats makes my day lousy, Yeah, the support guys, they're the ones that get just crushed, exactly. And there's people are, we have people that check their I have to admit, when I was in the early days of podcasting, when we first got our stats online, I basically had the page on refresh. I was just in there. It was a tab open in my browser.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that still do that.
Yeah.
So, if stats are even like a minute late, we have people like calling us and sending tickets, and my state stats haven't updated. What's going on? The world is falling, and it's, I appreciate people's motivation to looking at their stats. I haven't really even looked at this shows in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So,
and not all the platforms are getting the stats reporting back from Spotify yet either. I know we're still working on trying to get those APIs relationships going with Spotify too. I know there's only been a couple of platforms that I think have it set up.
Yeah, we're pulling log files, I think, is what we're pulling. I think we're...
you are?
Yeah.
At least I thought it was an API.
Yeah,
I thought it was an API.
I don't think we're using an API. I mean, if it is, it's just log data that we're pulling via an API, I think.
And then you guys have to parse that raw data?
Yeah, so the dev team had a couple of weeks of work to get, first of all, to figure it out. And,
yeah.
I should look at the... I should look at the YouTube chat. There's some YouTube chat going in here.
Oh, well, pull it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at here.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So Eileen's been in both chat rooms. So somebody called Beauty Bubble has been asking question.
I
don't know who she is. Is she the... Eileen, who is she? Is she the one of the folks from Castbox?
No, she's not.
Oh, okay.
No, she's a podcaster. She does a show on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's
on Spreaker too. She's doing a show on Spreaker too.
Yeah, so everyone's watching. I'm watching that. Very rarely do we get chat in actually the YouTube channel. So, well, I guess we'll see how this all falls out. What are your expectations for podcast movement this year, Rob?
From what I hear, it's got more registrations for attendees than they had in total last year. So that usually is a good sign. I know that the Hall of Fame is going to be a separate event from the awards now, so they're not blended together. So I guess all of the past winners of the Hall of Fame are all going to sit at the same table or something like that. I guess at the event. And
does that mean I have to dress up?
I don't know what that means, actually. Does that mean we have to dress up? Does that mean we have to wear a tuxedo? I don't know.
I don't know. Question. Dan Franks was in the... Dan, if you're in live, we got to have Dan on. Of course, he's a busy man. I don't know if he'll have time before the show.
Yeah.
To be on. Because we're actually, if I looked at Rob, I got to get my presentation going. How about you?
Well, I sent out an email to you last week.
From
the State of Podcasting panel. So we've got to do a call next week to all get on the same page with what we're going to talk about.
But I've got to start. I've got a base or something to build from, but I got a week's worth of work on that to get done.
Yeah. I'm still pulling together our booth.
I've set pretty high expectations for myself because I had a full room last year, and I think Dan's given me a bigger room this year. So I gotta be ready and make sure I'm ready to present.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I would imagine.
I haven't even looked at the schedule when I'm even speaking, so I need to go in and look at that. The schedule's out. So
yeah, it is. Well, you're in my panel.
Yeah, and what day do we do that?
I think it's on the 24th, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I just need to go look at and put it in my calendar.
It's like 1:30 on the 24th. Is the State of Podcasting panel.
That dreaded after lunch panel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's always funny when you're speaking at these events, you always go look and see your head-to-head with, and you're going to know pretty much if you're going to have a big audience or not, just based upon, oh my God,
who else is
speaking that hour, You know?
Yeah. Well, I'll plan on inviting Dan on, hopefully for like the 14th or something.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get him on.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan left, Eileen said.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it'd be cool. He's going to be, they're going to be busy.
Yeah.
That's such a huge, it's such a huge time suck. That's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a good event.
Yeah.
So
We've been talking with my team. What are we going to do the last day? I'm just kind of thinking to myself, and we're not going to be in the booth. It's going to be a new experience for me because the show floor is only open 2 days.
Yeah.
And the third day, the thing continues. I'm just going to be like, doing this,
Well, a lot of people leave early too. So that's part of the reason probably why they did it, is because the last day is usually nobody around anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's a full session track that day, so.
Yeah, that's true. They probably figure that everybody's been through the exhibition.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the third day.
Mm-hmm.
So Todd, are you available to do the show? Obviously on the 7th, we're going to have the Google guy.
Yeah.
The 14th.
Yep.
And the 21st.
Yep. All good.
Okay.
Well, the 20, what time?
So when are you flying out?
Yeah, let me go look. I think it's the Saturday, the 21st evening. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, I fly out on the 22nd. So.
Yeah, well, you can't get there from here if you want to get there the same day. So let me look and double check my reservation. One of the most expensive flights I've flown this year is getting into Philly. I have no idea why it's so expensive to go in there.
It's the time of the year. It's a holiday time. It's a summer.
Yeah.
Summer travel time.
Let me look. Make sure it's not.
It was an expensive flight. Yeah, it was an expensive plane ticket.
Let's see here. Yeah, at 4:00 in the afternoon, so I'll be able to do a show. So
okay.
Yeah, I get into 4:00 departure, and then I don't get into Philly till 10 a.m. the next day. So because I'm 6 hours behind. It's like flying the red eye out of here, but it leaves at 4.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I am going direct to Chicago, which is beautiful. In first. Yes.
All right. In first class?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got my upgrade already. So
that's terrific.
Yeah, it really is terrific. On a lay down seat too. So.
Oh, you can sleep a little bit.
Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Two beers and an Ambien.
2 beers.
No, I don't take Ambien.
All right. Well, I think we're probably at the end of the road here, aren't we?
Yeah, we started a little late, but I think we're good enough. All right, folks. Thanks for being here, and should be an exciting show next week if the Google guy shows on time. So
I think you will.
Yeah. So we'll keep you advised here. Should be a really good show, and we have to. Hopefully, we can keep him longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah,
we'll see. But
we'll keep him around a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry for the late start, but sometimes Skype does that. But other than that, everyone, thanks for being here. Rob, how do they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, or you can send me an email, rob@spreaker.com or rob@voxnest.com. I know I've got way too many email addresses. But yeah, we definitely want to hear from you if you have any questions or if you have any sharing that you want to do on things that you're hearing in the space. Little birds are always good things to have.
We actually missed talking about one thing.
Did we now?
Yeah.
Bonus content here, Todd.
Well, it goes back to Castbox on incorrect number of episodes and feeds or on their site. Sorry there, our East Coast informant. We missed it. Yeah, so we dug on them enough. All right.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. You can reach me, Todd, at blueberry.com or on Twitter at Geek News. And just send us your tidbits. We'd love to hear those little interesting insider information stuff. All the juicy stuff you're hearing that we're willing to talk about, the other people are not. So Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on the New Media Show. Everyone, take care. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.